No, you had a story on the phone. You were telling me that you ended up you told me you hooked up with Courtney Love and Kurt Loder.
That's Anthony. Yes, there is a story there.
Let's hear the story of that.
You are now listening to the best show in the universe, The Anthony Rogers Show. You probably wish that this was your show, but it's not. It's The Anthony Rogers Show. Tell all of your friends to listen to this show.
This episode is brought to you by DIY Gift Kits. Go to DIYGiftKits.com. They have an array of different things you can make. My favorite's the hot sauce. They basically have these two different hot sauce kits, one being super hot, one being hot, that basically you could just make your own flavor of hot sauce through these kits. So do that while you listen to this episode. Welcome back to the greatest show in the entire universe. Every other show sucks. Today we have a huge guest. Came to prominence and fame from winning the first MTV Who Wants to Be a VJ contest. Seems like kind of a cult of personality since. Jesse Camp, you may remember him. Like, if you're my age, you were fucking like alive, I guess, at the same time that happened. How you doing, brother?
Anthony, it's an honor to be on your show. I'm a big fan of you, and I think you're hilarious. I love your show, and do you know though that there's another Anthony Rogers, evangelical? You type in Anthony Rogers on YouTube, there are a lot of religious videos.
Yeah, you have to go to youtube.com/Anthony Rogers for the videos, yeah. Because there's like this guy, like, and it's a positive message, you know. I like if people can look me up and get some, I don't know, some faith in their life. I don't know, but no, but I still don't. Yeah, there's probably so many fucking Anthony Rogers, man. Like there's so many of them, dude. There's a dude that was in like Grease Live, and it says when you Google me that I was in Grease Live because there's another Anthony Rogers that's in a fucking play or some shit, dude. Like,
oh yeah, he plays Rizzo in Grease on Ice. That is Anthony Rogers.
Yeah,
he's pretty talented, you know. We go together like wabba dabba dabba shibba labba ding dong, and then he does like a whole silhouette. It's, you know, there's a lot of tough choreography in Grease, let alone trying to do that on ice skates. So that Anthony Rogers is pretty talented. And
he's a lot better.
You know,
I prefer him actually. He's probably my favorite Anthony Rogers. Like,
well, you are the GOAT, Anthony Rogers. I mean, that's without question. But I was a little confused because I was like, okay, yeah, the Anthony Rogers, and I kind of looked it up, and then, you know, I was wondering, wait, am I being asked to be on a Christian show, and this close after Easter, and so I prepared a Easter joke, and I know that this is the wrong Anthony Rogers show to do it on, but nonetheless, I think it's still pretty funny. So it's the Last Supper, and Jesus H. Christ, is there with his 12 disciples, and he pulls out a giant loaf of bread, and he says, guys, this bread represents my body. So, you know, in a moment, just have at the bread and eat it like it's me. And then Jesus pulls out a giant vat of red wine, and he says, this red wine represents my blood. And then Jesus proceeds to pull out a giant Costco-sized mayonnaise jar. And before he can say what that represents, Judas was like, oh, Jesus, we're good. We don't need to know what the mayonnaise is. I think we got it. Because it's his ejaculate. The mayonnaise represents Jesus' ejaculate.
are you trying to pitch me the second Christian Anthony Rogers show? That's what I feel like that's your pitch. Like, okay, we gotta compete with the name. We gotta compete with the name. We gotta stay Christian. We're gonna keep the same theme. We're gonna take down all these bullshit decorations behind us. We're gonna start our show. So, so you're working on a TV show right now, you said?
Yeah, I'm working on a couple of shows. Honestly, no BS, because I know I like to make up funny stories for entertainment purposes. But I'm working on a show, Anthony. This is 100% serious. It's called Freak City, and it stars two girls. One is Danny Miller from the band Surfboard, and the other girl is she's a former Playboy model. Her name is Ashley Smith, but they're both like like mid-20 girls, and it's kind of basically they have like a electronic band, and it's kind of like a modern day Laverne and Shirley set in kind of like Highland Park, hipster Los Angeles. And so
Cool.
on the show I play, it's a big stretch, I play a VJ on a dance program, if you can believe it. But but it's a lot of fun, and I've been getting to help write a lot of the scripts and stuff like that, and so that's and so I'm be on, but we're making 6 episodes at the moment. So that's one of the things I got going on. And then another thing is I've been hosting this thing called Sustain the Scene, which is a bi-weekly live stream fundraiser every other Friday night. And if you go on like Bands in Town and stuff, or if you just go to sustainthescene.com, or even if you go on YouTube and just type in Sustain the Scene, you can see a lot of the old live streams. But it's cool. Basically, I host it with a comedian named Nina Tarr, and every week we have 2 different musical acts. And then basically, we're trying to raise money to keep a lot of the local independent Los Angeles music venues alive, especially, it's really rough goings. Even though we're getting close to the end of the pandemic, it's still here, at least in California, when venues are allowed. I think that by June 15th, everything is going to be pretty much open, but there's so many mom and pop places that have gone under. And I know, I wonder in St. Louis too. I mean, actually, Anthony, how is St. Louis? How is the local music venues and things like that? Have they? I know that basically. Well, I was going to say that Los Angeles, like the real estate's a lot more expensive and rents are higher and stuff. But at the same time, I don't think that there's any area in America, if it's like a hip area, or bottom line, if there's money to be made, real estate agents are like, flipping those neighborhoods. And so what I'm saying is that if this was like the 1970s, we could probably have, a St. Louis venue and call it like, the Blueberry Hill Archery, Darchery, Custard Pie Emporium, and it wouldn't cost much to keep it running. But basically now I'm sure even in St. Louis, you know what I mean, it's like, if you're not paying your rent, like there's a Chipotle just waiting to like take your spot.
Yeah, no shit. Yeah, definitely. 60% of local business throughout the entire United States collapsed during this bullshit. And like most of the state doesn't care about this at all. Missouri basically just laughs at this shit. And but inside the city of St. Louis, they definitely just gave their economy to the county basically. Like they closed everything down for a while, and everybody just went to the county and laughed at them basically. Or everybody sat in their house. I mean, depending on what they did, it's like some people do that. Whenever there's like you remember, I don't know if they did this when you're in school or not, but like they're like, okay, there's an earthquake, hide under your desk. Like it's like the same kind of thing. It's like okay, there's some crazy shit going on, and like nobody knows what's going on. We're doing the best we can, type shit. But like a lot of things fucked up. I feel like,
Yeah, absolutely. And that's pretty stupid advice, especially in an earthquake.
Yeah, you should see what they do in a pandemic. I'm just joking, but no, man. So it's cool. Thank you for taking the time. I appreciate you. Like you seem like a cool dude, man. Like So let's get, this is like time capsule shit. You probably hate answering old shit. I get it, but like as a person, like hosting a show. I just want to say it's interesting, man. Like, so like, what was that like? Like, you're pretty young. What was that like? Just blowing up, being like a huge VJ and shit in the beginning of your career and stuff. Like, that was pretty much the beginning, wasn't it? Like,
Yeah. I mean, it's been an amazing. It's really been an amazing life. I mean, so the whole MTV thing happened when I was 19 years old. I was
yeah, I knew you were young. That's crazy.
Yeah, I mean, I think I had graduated. I was basically, it was like less than 9 months after like graduating high school that I was on MTV and I won the contest. And long story short, for people that don't know the story, and also I want to say for people at home, I do hear my voice and I know that I have the tendency sometimes to talk in a high register if I'm not being careful. So Anthony, if need be, I can talk down here low, or should I talk in my normal speaking voice? I just don't want your viewers to have hearing issues, but I'll try to go somewhere in between. But long story short, the year was 1998, and basically MTV was kind of in a transitional period. Carson Daly had just been hired to sort of be like the new face of MTV, and MTV had just built this brand new Times Square location studio that, looked out on Times Square. So basically, kind of to promote this whole new look of MTV, MTV had this big contest, and it was called Who Wants to Be a VJ? And just to put this sort of in, its historical place, and I didn't mean to sound douchey like that. This is historical, like the Gettysburg Address or something.
It's still history. It's still history. It's pop culture history.
Pop culture history. There you go. And because in a lot of ways, MTV for a long time was really at the cutting edge of pop culture. And what I mean by that is that you could really make a strong argument that MTV really did kick off the whole reality television phenomenon with the real world.
Yeah, for sure.
And that was in 1992, and so long story short, MTV had this contest in 1998, and this is about like 2 years before even the first American Idol, let alone the first American Ninja, let alone the first Iron Chef, let alone the first, there wasn't even RuPaul's Drag Race. There was really nothing like that. I mean, I think the closest thing there had been is something like Star Search, and that was like in the 80s. And so anyway, MTV basically made this big announcement that they were going to have open auditions for people to come to the new Times Square studio and audition to be their new VJ. And that basically, out of all the people that would come down and audition, MTV would basically narrow down to 10 people. And then from there, those 10 people would be narrowed down to 6 people. And then from there, MTV would have like a big 4-hour contest on a Saturday where everyone across the country could, either call a phone number or go online and vote for who they wanted to be the VJ. And so long story short, I went there. I mean, I was kind of, like tooling around New York. I'm from Connecticut. And so, New York's, it's like, it would be like if you lived in Springfield, Missouri, and you would go to St. Louis because that's the main thing. Or would you go to Joplin? I don't know. Both are great places.
Joplin's a very world famous Joplin. Like
every place in America is always like, we are the crystal meth capital. And
every like southern areas like that. And every city's the crime capital. Yeah, I know.
Exactly. Hey, are you on the? Oh, I love these backdrops. You are sitting behind oh my gosh! Would you look at the horrors of time, ladies and gentlemen, from that to this? But what? Hey, actually, that was a handsome kid, but that was that's like a Justin Bieber, like, you know what I mean? And No, not like a Justin Bieber. But what I mean is, if you look at Justin Bieber now, he too has grown a mustache and, looks a little ratty. But I tell you what, I think a life well lived means that you're going to have some wrinkles on your face. And if you don't look a little older, then you really weren't living, were you? But this is a giant problem I have, Anthony. You got to really be a taskmaster and help, keep me on the page because
No, you're your own energy, man. I like your energy. I like letting free spirits roam, man. I'm out here to cage animals, Like I just want to hear. I like your vibe, man.
I can wander around and around, and then it's like 20 minutes later, and we didn't even finish the story. Because there are so many amazing things to talk about. Definitely, I want to circle back to Joplin because what I was just going to say is that, I got some crazy Missouri stories to tell you about. Once I was at a rainbow gathering in, I think the closest city was Springfield, but I think technically it was in Arkansas in the Ozark Mountain
Oh,
range.
you talking about those festivals? You talking about those festivals they have out here? Like those Midwestern music festival type things?
It was called the Rainbow Gathering, which is sort of like a more hippie-ish Burning Man. You know what I mean? But,
my buddy was in a reggae band. He played all that shit. He played all through there's all through the Midwest has those kind of festivals with 1,000, 2,000 people here or there.
Yeah. But Missouri is a dope ass state, and so listen. The fact that you're from Missouri, I love it, and then just to finish the thought on Joplin is that basically, all these places you go there and people would be like, we're the crystal meth capital of the world. And, I'm sure that, there you have a lot of, by the week hotels where people are cooking up shit. But, I would have to say that Oildale, California, which is the armpit of Bakersfield, and Bakersfield is arguably the armpit of California. I'd say that Oildale is definitely one of the crystal meth capitals in the fact that it's basically if you pull up there, even if it's 10 p.m. at night, you'll see a 75-year-old lady, oxygen tank on, mowing her dirt at 11 at night. And I'm not saying mowing her lawn. Literally, she's mowing a thing of dirt, cigarette, oxygen tank, and just, utter chaos. So shout out to Oildale. But I was going to say that Joplin, Missouri, if you were traveling from St. Louis to Oklahoma City or Tulsa, there's no way you're not going to go through Joplin. And so, yeah, Joplin definitely is it's a hot city. And not hot like that it's like Miami, but it's hot as in that it's shit's getting stolen 24 hours a day, insane drama and just, a lot of sadness and poverty, and hardship and, and just people coping the best they can. I don't know. It's a rough world out there, but Joplin, I think, has a lot of heart and soul, but also a lot of meth. So there you go. But
I feel like when you're in Italy.
When you're in Italy.
No, you cut out. What'd you say? I couldn't hear
you. Well, I think that Senator Manchin says there's no circumstance in which he would vote to get rid of the filibuster.
I can't hear what you say. I can't hear what you say, man. Cut out.
Oh, can you hear me now?
Yeah, now I can.
Okay. We are back. The fog is lifted. The earth is shifted. We've raised the gifted. You knew Anthony Rogers would be back, and he is, and so am I. And so, long story short, basically, I was 18. I went down to the Times Square location, auditioned, and they called me back. And then I ended up as one of the 6 finalists, and then people voted for me, and I became an MTV VJ. And this is right in 1998. And what was so amazing is that basically, literally, I got to be there for a giant cosmic shift in pop culture. And what I mean by that is that, like, you know, like long story short, the contest, you were supposed to be on MTV for like 2 weeks, but due to popular demand, I ended up on MTV for almost like a year and a half. And then I was able to parlay that into making my own record and having my own band and going on tour. And then, you know, from there, life has been, you know, a crazy journey. I'm sure everyone knows my my phenomenal children's book series, Wobbly the Wazoo. This is Wobbly. There it goes! But we'll have more with Wobbly later. But for now, yeah, what I was going to say is that in 1998, when I won that contest, basically, NSYNC, Backstreet Boys, Britney Spears, that was all blowing up. And then at the same time, as far as like hard music goes, you know, you had Marilyn Manson came out with like Mechanical Animals, and when the Dope Show came out, I mean, that was really like a wow kind of thing. And then at the same time, Korn and Limp Bizkit broke, and I was an incredibly lucky kid to be there at the time. I mean, yeah, I mean, like, you know, and working with MTV would send me out on the road with Korn. You know, I would, and then I was basically there for like the first year and a half of Total Request Live, and got to see the whole journey of that show. Basically, when that started in September 1998, it was Carson Daly as the host, and John Norris and Kurt Loder as the news, and then I would be like the on the street correspondent. And basically, when that show started, no one really knew about it, and so I would literally like be in Times Square just trying to find someone to banter with about the Backstreet Boy video coming up. But within like a couple of weeks, you know, TRL just blew up instantaneously to the point that there were like thousands of kids, you know, there in Times Square, and that became just a whole insane thing. And yeah, and so, you know, I feel always really, really blessed and lucky to have been at the right place at the right time. And it was truly an amazing era. I mean, and working at MTV was great. Every day you'd get there and you'd never know who would be there. I mean, I remember being there on a Monday morning, and like Courtney Love was in the main green room, and J-Lo was also there. And yeah, I mean, it was an insane time. I mean, yeah, it was a great era. I mean, like, you know, tons of stories. I mean, like, you know, and New York was really, really rocking then. I mean, like, you know, you had Eve, the Rough Riders, DMX. You know, I remember like sometimes I would just be walking in the Village and you'd see like Q-Tip from A Tribe Called Quest, and he'd just give you a ride wherever you needed to go. And Busta Rhymes was all around, and yeah, it was a very, very, very cool time era, for sure. And I had a blast. And then yeah, and then I put out a Jesse Camp and the 8th Street Kids, which wasn't a huge commercial success, but I got to be the opening act for NSYNC on their No Strings Attached stadium tour, which was just insane. I mean, basically that NSYNC were playing stadiums at that point, and they had this ginormous show where there'd be like a giant helicopter circling the stadium right before they went on, and then like 5 men would like parachute from the helicopter behind the stage. They weren't actually in sync, but then NSYNC would like come onto the stage like in full, you know, parachute mode. And yeah, I mean, you know, the late 90s, early 2000s was a really amazing time for sure. But I just babbled for a whole long thing there, so let's open the floor for questions. Anthony.
Oh, me? Okay. Thanks for calling on me. I was No, you had a story on the phone. You're telling me that you ended up you told me you hooked up with Courtney Love and Kurt Loder.
Oh, yes. Not sexually, of course, but well, that's Anthony. That yes, there is a story there.
Let's hear the story of that. We're gonna take a break for a second. I'm gonna tell you about one of our sponsors, and the Ancestral Spirit Church. It is created through a dedicated path working with ancestral medicine to accomplish a mission for the highest good of all beings, seen and unseen. With the support of their family, walking hand in hand with our ancestors, taking a huge step for the collective by creating a sacred space for healing. This is offered through prayer and ancestral medicine ceremonies where we share sacred wisdom from communities around the world. They provide additional healing opportunities through retreats, workshops, yoga. They're basically starting to lay the foundation of their vision. If you feel called to support their mission, you will be accepted with deep gratitude, reverence, and love. They'll be honored to have the capability of creating with respect, integrity, and loving awareness. So go to their Etsy or Facebook group, link in the description if you're interested.
It's not Courtney I'm worried about. It's more the other Kurt Loder, you know. But I'll just say this much: Kurt Loder, he has a very apt last name because he is a very heavy loader. What I'm trying to say is he's very profuse in his ability to ejaculate. But was there a three-way with me, Courtney Love, and Kurt Loder? Was there perhaps a two-way with either me and Courtney or Courtney and Kurt and one of the other people watched? There's, the truth is never black and white. It's always shades of gray. And so there's a lot of true stuff in there, but I don't want to throw Kurt Loder under the bus. But again, I mean, that man has nothing to be shy about, and he is a multi-loader. He's more of a loader than even Sting. I mean, he is as not only does he have an amazing tan, but he's an amazing tantric lover.
So what are some other like crazy ass stories? Like you were in like the height of pop culture for like that time. What are some other crazy ass shit just like at that time? Like,
oh, I mean, yeah, where to begin? If you give me a name, I can I can tell you a story.
Fred Durst.
Fred Durst is a very cool guy. And if you go on YouTube, you can find a very early Limp Bizkit clip from an episode of Lunch with Jesse, which was the summertime beach house show that I hosted, which was really, really awesome too. Basically, like for the summer after I became a VJ, MTV was doing their they were televising all their summer activities from a beach house in Seaside Heights, New Jersey. And so what was really cool is that basically MTV kind of gave me like a half-hour slot in between videos every day from like 11:30 to 12, and you could basically have on whoever you wanted. I'm always going to be a huge hair metal, fan, and so basically there was a great kind of like venue in Old Bridge, New Jersey, where a lot of old hard rock bands would play that summer. And so we were basically able to kind of like sneak on Sebastian Bach, Rat, Warrant, Dee Snider. I think that we did like a 5-part week at Sebastian Bach's house. We couldn't play any of the videos. We'd have to like play Beastie Boys Intergalactic. But so long story short, we also did have cool kind of up and coming contemporary bands on the Lunch with Jesse show. And One of them was Limp Bizkit, like when they were just starting out. And so if you go on YouTube and you type in Limp Bizkit Lunch with Jesse, you can see a very early Limp Bizkit appearance. And then I also must have had a lot of spirit in me because I somehow ended up freestyling along with Fred Durst. And it was not half bad, or, you know, I don't know. It definitely wasn't, you know, Tupac by any means, but, you know, it's if you want a good laugh, that's a funny clip. But, yeah, I mean, I still see Fred a lot around town. He did a movie like about a year and a half ago that a friend was working on, starring John Travolta. And John Travolta is I've met him a couple of times. That guy is seriously as cool as they come. He's really, really hilarious and really, really cool and really so super down to earth. You know, basically, yeah, I think that I'm definitely not saying anything about Scientology. I definitely don't want to have members of the Sea Org parking their boat near me. I definitely don't want to be tailed, you know, like Sheryl Crow says. And by the way, Sheryl Crow is from what state?
Missouri. Yeah, she's from there.
She said, if it makes you happy, it can't be that bad. So if Scientology makes you happy, you know, pinch out for a bigger view.
You met a lot of fucking people, man. Like, yeah, you got like pictures with like Ozzy Osbourne, Joe Biden. You got a lot of fucking people.
I mean, I can tell you that Ozzy story. I mean, that's an amazing one too. So basically, before the Osbournes, the television show started, basically, long story short, Kelly and Amy Osbourne, because there's another sister, Amy Osbourne, that wasn't on the Osbournes reality show, and she's kind of, you know, kept more of a lower profile than Jack and Kelly. But long story short, basically, I think it's 1998, and Kelly and Amy at the time were both giant Hanson fans. I'm a big Ozzy fan, and so MTV got this idea, why don't we send Jesse to Ozzy and Sharon's hotel to pick up Kelly and Amy, and then Jesse, being me, I don't like to talk in the third person, then I'll chaperone them to a Hanson concert and then bring them back. And that's exactly what happened. And so that picture of Ozzy choking me out was right before Kelly, Amy, and I and an MTV crew flew to, I believe, Bristow, Virginia, basically the amphitheater area for like the Metro Washington, D.C. area to see a Hanson concert. And so, yeah, you know, there you go. I mean, you know, that's a crazy one. There I am with Joe Biden. And yeah, I mean, I'm genuinely a huge fan of Joe Biden. I have a sister who's a fabulous photographer, and she and I work together a lot on stuff. And so we were basically right before the pandemic hit. This is, I guess, January, early February of 2020. We were visiting our mom and dad who live in Cape Cod, Massachusetts. And basically, that was when they were having all the Democratic primaries in New Hampshire. And it's pretty insane that like a year and 3 months ago, Joe Biden was actually like fifth, you know, because you had like, well, of course, Bernie Sanders, but there was Elizabeth Warren, Pete Buttigieg, a bunch of people running. But the very cool thing is that New Hampshire and Iowa, because they're the first two states that vote in the Democratic primaries, to eventually nominate the Democratic candidate for president. Basically, long story short, if it's January every 4 years and you go to New Hampshire, you can literally meet like John Travolta. And those are the two girls from Freak City. There you go. But I was going to say that, long story short, if you are in New Hampshire in the January of any, election cycle, you can literally meet every single Democratic candidate like 5 or 6 times. And so we went to about 8 Joe Biden rallies because you could you know what it was? It was like getting to see your favorite band play in really, really small clubs before. And now it's if you want to see Joe Biden, yeah, you're going to have to go to the Staples Center, or you're going to have to go to the Sprints, or I don't know what the big arena in St. Louis is. But what I was going to say is that back then, you could basically see Joe Biden in front of 250 people in the Nashua High School gymnasium. And so we got to hang and meet Joe Biden a bunch. In fact, we actually ended up becoming on a first name basis with him. Because, yeah, I mean, Joe Biden, hey, I genuinely, I love the man. I mean, listen, I mean, I know that at the end of the day, if someone were to ask me what's the difference between a Republican and a Democrat, I mean, ultimately, both are politicians. But I would put it like this. If it was Thanksgiving and you had an entire house of Republicans and a homeless person were to walk by the window, all the Republicans would get all angry and be like, it's your fault that you're a homeless person. It's you. It's fundamentally wrong. Something's fundamentally wrong with you. Get away from our property. Get out of here. Get lost, you homeless beggar.
And then the Democrat would be the homeless person.
Well, I mean, you see, the thing is that you're right.
I'm just fucking around, bro.
No, they wouldn't beat him, but the Democrats aren't going to invite the guy in and give him a shower and give him, a job. But at least the Democrats wouldn't yell at him and would put a plate of food out there for him to eat. And so he at least can survive. You know what I mean? And ultimately, I mean, it's the difference between a $600, $600 stimulus check or a $1,400 stimulus check. And I just think personally, it's disgusting when, what it's like? It's like this. It's basically if you're taking a girl out on a date and you make a big fucking deal about because she wanted to order 2 things off the dollar menu. You know what I mean? If I were the girl, I'd be like, what the fuck am I doing here? If I had any respect for myself, I'm not going to be with a dude that's this fucking cheap. Hello? I mean, I'm fucking a human being. I'm worth at least a fucking 2 for $5 Whopper deal, And so that to me.
If you're going to take Jesse out, get him a Whopper. Don't be a cheap bastard. Don't fuck with it. Don't fuck.
No, but what I'm trying to say is that it's basically you can really judge a country by how well they take care of the most disenfranchised, person among the population. And I mean, yeah. And so it's if you want to know what America really thinks of its people, just look at those Republicans that it's such a bitch to give them $600. I mean, I don't know if you've been following the whole thing with Amazon and down there in Bessemer, Alabama, which is basically Birmingham. I think it's freaking awesome. I really hope that they vote to create a union there. Yeah, it's just it's.
What's going on? I don't know the story. Elaborate a little bit. I don't know what you're talking about right now.
Well, basically, there's a guy named Jeff Bezos whose head looks like a penis cap.
I'm familiar with Jeff Bezos.
And what's crazy is that you know what? I can't tell. I think that there's 2. Okay, if you were to look at every single problem going on in the world, whether it's economic inequality, racism, every kind of injustice that's out there, I think you could basically trace it back to one main problem, and that's greed. And I think Black Lives Matter is beautiful. I think that the Me Too movement is also incredibly is an incredible movement. But I would like to see there be a movement where greed is shamed, basically. And quite honestly, I mean, if someone is watching this on YouTube and they haven't paid for like the premium YouTube, chances are that our conversation is going to get interrupted quite often by these videos that pop up. And every time a video pops up for me, it's some douchebag like trying to be Mr. Entrepreneurial and like and like basically be like, I live in Maui and I have a RAV4 and I used to live in my mom's basement, but now I found this way to get rich. And so basically it's just look, bottom line, capitalism only works if people hate themselves, because if you actually have healthy self-esteem, you're not basing your self-worth on what kind of iPhone you have. You can get by with the iPhone 9 or 10, but the point I'm getting at is that I think greed, either it's greed or it's tiny penises that are the center of all the problems on this planet. Because if you ask me about police officers, that whole expression, there's just a couple of bad apples. Most of them are really great. I don't know, but I tend to think it's more the other way, that they're mostly bad apples, and there's some good ones,
Depends on where you're at. Depends on where you're at, but there's shitty everybody's, man.
The thing is this, I agree with you, but I'll say this, that there was in my home state of Connecticut, and again, I'm not a Connecticut, but what I was going to say is, because people from Massachusetts are massholes, and then people from Massachusetts call people from Connecticut Connecticutans. But the point I'm getting at is that there was a big lawsuit in Connecticut because the police in Stamford, Connecticut wouldn't hire someone to be a police officer. And the reason they wouldn't hire him is because his IQ was too high. And think about that. They don't want to hire someone because the IQ is too high. I mean, you don't need me to dissect that, but I'll break it down anyway. I mean, it's bottom line is that, you don't want anyone that's too smart to be in that job, because if they are, they would start questioning. I don't know, quite honestly, how, if you have a conscience, you could even really do that kind of job. What people
I think it's
really
supposed to be a noble job. I think it's supposed to be a noble job, but the criminals took it over. I think basically you got rid of the mafia in the 70s and stuff. So I mean, basically, if you want to be a lifelong criminal, you pretty much have to be a police officer, or something like that to not go to jail forever. I mean, I think they just became a mob.
Yeah, no, you make a good point, but at the same time,
the job's noble. They just don't act like it. Like the job, it's a noble job. They're just not doing it.
Sure, but then I mean, like, that'd be one thing if you didn't have the whole thing of greed, and then from greed you have privatized prisons, and
that's fucked up. Privatized prisons piss me off. Like that pisses me off even hear about that. Like slavery.
Oh yeah, I mean, like, and you look at Jim Crow. I mean, basically it was I mean, it was basically like in Texas, and people forget kind of like a lot of the shit in Texas, but a lot of those bottom line is this. It was like basically, oh, we can't have slavery anymore. Okay. What, you whistled at her? Okay, now you're going to be a prisoner for life. And now we don't have to pay you, and I mean,
yeah,
and now it's free prison labor.
No,
I'm
sure.
that, it's just the, I mean, it just the evil, and obviously it still goes on today. But what I was gonna say is this, is that it's basically like, one thing that doesn't even really get talked about in like all this, like defund the police or anything like that is, and this is something that affects everyone, is the fact that it's sort of like this. Okay, bottom line, fire trucks, right? You have the fire department. Anthony, do you ever see like fire trucks just driving around randomly, like in case there's a fire that they see to put out?
No, that's a good point.
That's happened. They're in the firehouse, and if there's a fire, they get a call and they're there. Why should police be any different? Well, basically what they'll say is, oh, we need to make our presence felt because we being out there, we're a deterrent for crime. Bullshit. The fact is, if you actually were good at your job, that's all the deterrent you would fucking need. You know what I mean? It's like if like if Batman were real, and I know that if I like robbed the orphanage, Batman's gonna fucking find out and get me. I'm not robbing an orphanage. Why am I robbing an orphanage? I don't think that there's a whole lot of money there to be had. But then again, I mean, it's like every place where there's money, it gets siphoned, you know, from, I mean, you know, yeah, I mean, intrinsically, and that all goes back to greed and, you know, yeah. And, but what I'm getting at is that it's like, this is the point I was going to get at. Do you notice? So bottom line is this, is that it's like if police were actually really good at their job, they wouldn't need to be having this whole like theatrical thing of driving around and intimidating people and basically trying to instill fear in, you know, in the most disenfranchised people. Basically, like the job of police is just simply to protect the interests of the rich and to raise, you know, revenue. And that's another giant thing, is that it's like, I don't know why people aren't more pissed that it's like basically the 3 last days of every month, you know, whether you're in St. Louis or whether you're in New Orleans or wherever you are, you know, you're going to see an insane police presence where basically everybody and their brother is going to get pulled over. And that's the time when all of a sudden, you know, every taillight, it's a ticket. Every minor traffic infraction, it's a ticket. It's a giant shakedown to raise revenue. And that happens because they have quotas. And why do they have quotas? Because basically it's like, you know, you have like really corrupt police unions, and basically to justify the budget that they get, there needs to be a certain amount of crime. If there isn't this certain amount of crime, then we can't justify, you know, our local police force. Like in Ferguson, I mean, like back a couple of years ago, like when why the fuck does the Ferguson Police Department own like dilapidated army tanks? Why is the U.S. Army selling Ferguson police? I mean, it's disgusting cosplay. I mean, like then when you see like, you know, Breonna Taylor, when you see like these like police raids, it's just a bunch of fucking dudes with 2-inch penises that fucking like hate themselves. And like the one area like where they can feel like they can get a little bit of power back is when they put on the giant uniform and they can cosplay and like fucking like, you know, break down somebody's house, you know, at least 2 out of 3 times. It's not the actual house of the person they were claiming that they wanted to get. And then it's like, you know, you're breaking down someone's house over like some bullshit fake war on drugs giant warrant. You know, I didn't mean to go off on a whole tangent here, but it's genuinely, you know, it's fucked up. And the whole privatized prison system, yeah, it's basically like, let's, you know, it's basically like storage units, you know, for people that you know, don't have means of having any kind of actually decent legal representation. And like, you know, a public defender is going to basically, even if their heart is in the right place, they're really helpless to not sell you down the river. And so, yeah, I mean, it's really, it's a fucked up world. And thank God in a lot of ways that this past year has, you know, I think COVID, it's horrible how many people have passed from it, but in a lot of ways this year has been truly amazing because it's really put a spotlight on the inequalities and just genuinely how disgusting this country is. In a lot of it, you know, it's a final thing out of my long-winded mouth. There's a great scene in this movie called Coming Home with Jane Fonda, Bruce Dern, and John Voight. And this is before John Voight, again, went all crazy with his politics, but he's playing like a Vietnam soldier who comes back, and he's basically talking to a group of high school students about his experience in Vietnam. And he talks about how when he was their age, you know, he was really sold the whole American dream and to be patriotic, and you know how, yeah, I mean, like the reality of it is America is not the place that tries to sell itself as. I mean, the whole American dream is basically like a fake lotto, you know, and the thing of it is that it's like, yeah, I mean, honestly, this is a country built on stolen land, and just it's been evil from the jump. And so I'm not saying that other Western countries, I mean, my God, look at England and all their colonialism and everything. And I don't know. I mean, at the end of the day, I go on and on in circles about this. And I guess the point I'm trying to get at is this. This is my final point on all of it. This is my thesis statement. Then I will talk about anything fun. But if I were a space alien coming from outer space, landing on planet Earth, and I were to look around at all the living creatures on this planet, and I were to look at, human beings, animals, every kind of living creature on this planet, you know what I would say the most intelligent creature on this planet is? Definitely not humans. It's behind me. It's forests, it's trees, it's forests. Basically, if this tree is low on nutrients, it can communicate that to another tree next to it underneath the ground. The roots share the water and nutrients. And basically, yes, a forest, if you look at it, you have several blades of grass, several different trees, several different ecosystems, but it's still one whole thing all working together. And, I think that mankind could have that potential. I mean, but ultimately, the people in power, AKA the greediest of us, I mean, it's just divide and conquer. And what I was getting at with Jeff Bezos is, one man whose head looks like a penis cap. And again, this is the small dick theory, is that it's like, if I had billions of dollars and I'm spending that money to build rocket ships, you know what I mean? I think that's basically a great metaphor for trying to build what I physically don't have. I mean, if Jeff Bezos, honestly, just take $2 billion to elongate your penis, you know what I mean? And then give the rest of your money, to everyone else, then there could be some real good in the world. I think a Jeff Bezos with a decent sized penis could be a great dude and could actually, let me just say this, is that basically, so in Alabama, what they're trying to do is that there's finally, it's one of the first ever Amazon warehouses where the people have finally gotten together to be like, you know what? We're sick of not being able to fucking urinate when we fucking need to. We're sick of not being treated like humans. Basically, that even 5-6 years ago, before Amazon started, that a warehouse job was actually you could have a decent living at it. You could make even $25 an hour working in a big UPS, FedEx, whatever distribution center warehouse. Amazon is oh, we pay our employees $15 an hour. It's better than minimum wage. What they're not telling you is that it's fucking anytime that Amazon builds a warehouse in any metro area, fucking the wages of every other warehouse go down. And so basically Amazon is pretty much turned a warehouse work into basically minimum wage. And the bottom line is, they, obviously they're exploiting people. I mean, it's a thankless, horrible job working in an Amazon warehouse. You're treated like shit. There's so many instances they're where you'd have senior citizens working there that would have a heart attack and die, and there'd be a dead body on the floor, and people would be yeah, just keep working around the dead person. Do not fuck up our numbers. Productivity. And and genuinely, this world, it's basically, this whole gig economy is all again a way of exploiting people. Some dude is delivering Uber Eats for 14 hours, and and your bottom line is really anytime you're working for someone other than yourself, you're gonna fucking be taken advantage of. But the final thing I'm getting at is that the Amazon warehouse in Birmingham, Alabama, they're actually unionizing, and Jeff Bezos and all the Amazon, higher ups are doing everything they can, to keep that from happening. Because if they do vote and unionize, that's going to be wildfire, and then you're going to basically people will be able to somewhat take some of the power back. I mean, giant corporations with their shareholders and all that. I mean, they're always going to, try to move the business to a third world country where, we can exploit. I mean, and but when it just all comes back down to greed. And I genuinely think that if we could somehow, this is my question for you, Anthony. Do you think that there's some way to change the public consciousness in even the greediest of CEOs, you know, and so that, and you could call it socialism. I would just call it like the golden rule. And it's insane to me how it's like Republicans like think that they are the party of Jesus. I mean, if Jesus were alive, he would fucking completely be a Democrat. Are you, you know, like if he had to even like choose? I mean, I think he'd be disgusted by all of it. But what I'm getting at is it's just like, yeah, you know, Jesus died for our sins, but who died so that Jesus could wear sandals without socks? That's an $1 million question. But I just was trying to add a little light there, a little levity. But here's the bottom line is that, yeah, so that's why it's really, really important that I'm really hoping that the people at the Amazon warehouse in Birmingham, Alabama unionize because, yeah, there's a hell of a lot more. And I'm not saying anything Bernie Sanders hasn't said 1 million times better and more eloquently, but, you know, I mean, yeah, there's far more of you and me and everybody and you know, and yeah, then there are of the Jeff Bezos, you know what I mean? And so yeah, I just, you know, bottom line is that, you know, Jeff Bezos, I mean, if he just took $1 billion and the man is making, I don't even know how many, like 180 billion a year or something, it's just take one, I mean, yeah, I mean, even you see how even like a stimulus check like that really affects people when they're living on the bottom line, you know, and yeah, and so I guess if I could put everything into one quote, it would be, you know, we need to try to change the public consciousness so that, you know, everyone, their brother isn't like, how can I make a fake, you know, YouTube ad about my get rich system, and that everybody is like, you know, like trying to you know, hate themselves and therefore be a false version of themselves. I mean, it's a really weird world, you know what I mean? Like you know, social media, you know, it can be very fun and stuff, but I mean, you know, you don't get it twisted, don't get too, you know, I feel there's so many kids that, you know, like, you know, there's such pressure to kind of like be this online presence that, you know, you're missing out on being your authentic self. And that's what it is that this entire world, you know, and the evils of it basically do everything they can to take people from being their true authentic selves. And it just sucks when someone's life is just all about survival, you know, when then you get like Jeff Bezos hoarding all the wealth, you know, so that like millions of people working at his warehouse have to fucking not be able to have the basic autonomy to go to the bathroom when they need to fucking go to the bathroom. That's fucked up, you know what I mean? And so there you go. Thank you for letting me rant and get that all out.
Hey, thanks for listening to the greatest show in the universe. And without sponsors, this show, well, it wouldn't happen. So go to AfricanDreamFoods.com. Get some this ghost pepper sauce. It's really good. They also have habanero chili salt, safari smoked seasoning. I mean, they just have so much good stuff. Like the jalapeno fermented jalapeno sauce is great. The ghost peri peri sauce, the smoked chipotle salt. Like there's so many good flavors and spices. So go to AfricanDreamFoods.com and support our sponsors. Thank you.